Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. Monday, January 3rd, 2022. That's right. We turn the calendar, a brand new year, and we are ready for a lot of great things to talk about. The NFL playoffs, they are shaping up. College football championship is set. Georgia, Alabama, big shocker there. And Dave Sharapan will join us coming up in just a moment for his Monday spot during football to look back at Week 17 in the NFL. Steelers, Browns tonight at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. Will it be Big Ben's final home game? Probably, but we'll talk about that with Dave coming up. And I got plenty to get to, as well as the college football semifinals. Two big duds, but now hopefully the trade-off is you got a great national championship between the Crimson Tide and the Bulldogs. BetMGM, they are the king of sports books, and I'll tell you about them all the time. New players only. Bet $10 to win $200 if your team scores a touchdown. Bet on any NFL money line, and if your team scores a touchdown, you'll receive an additional $200 in free bets. Again, new players only, must be 21 years or older to play, and legal in the following states: Arizona, New Jersey, Indiana, Colorado, Tennessee, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. Full terms and conditions apply. That's BetMGM. They are the king of sports books. There he is.
Yes, sir.
Man, Dave Sharapan, joining us here on a Monday. Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year to you too, sir. Good to see you. A lot to talk about for sure. I like how you called them duds. One game that wasn't a dud was that Rose Bowl. That was spectacular. Then the NFL, a couple games lived up to it, but a lot of things to review as well as look forward to.
Let's start Week 17 review. Bengals and the Chiefs in Cincinnati. And Dave, Joe Burrow now turning into an upper tier quarterback in the NFL. Jamar Chase, huge game, a couple big catches in that one. Chiefs were up most of that game. Bengals came back, took the lead. Chiefs kicked the field goal to tie it. What were your thoughts on the way Zach Taylor handled that fourth down? The Bengals got fortunate because you had one play with flags on both sides. So they replayed the down after Mixon was short. It was hard to see if he got in or not, but obviously it negated if there was a touchdown or not. And then they went for it again, another penalty at Kansas City. Did you think that these teams, like we go back to the Chargers a few weeks ago, they're a little scared of the Chiefs? They're acting scared by saying, okay, we need the touchdown because we think Mahomes may go down and get a touchdown. Just kick the field goal there and trust your defense.
Just kick the field goal there and trust your defense. That's exactly what I thought. All right, I understood taking it to use all the timeouts. So now we take away all their timeouts. Then we don't get in on third down, and on the fourth down, they're going for it. I'm like, what are they doing? Because if they don't get it, they're going to have to play overtime. Like, you can go ahead here, and choosing not to. The penalties occur on both sides, and they go again. Now I know they're kicking a field goal, right? Wait a second. They're going for it again? I couldn't believe it, Kevin. I was like, all right, I just don't understand what's going on. I do not. Clearly, I don't understand, because I think you're supposed to kick the field goal there. I mean, I maybe there's something I don't know or I'm missing, but you're supposed to kick the field goal there. They don't. And then they get the other penalty, and they can take it all the way down and kick the field goal to win the game and leave no time left on the clock. Okay, great. I thought he mishandled that at the end of the game, but leading up to that was a tremendous game by Burrow, tremendous game by Chase. Just a really good football game. Back and forth. Punch the Chiefs in the mouth and beat them in a shootout. I just don't think they can do that 3 times to win the Super Bowl. They got to play defense at some point. And that's the thing that I'm looking at as far as Cincinnati. Yes, big win. Not sure they can get all the way to the Super Bowl.
How much does this hurt Kansas City by potentially not having the home field? Since Tennessee beat Miami, the Titans have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs. Now they pass them. Tennessee plays Houston this week. You're going to assume Tennessee beats them no matter what Kansas City does against Denver. Do you have faith that the Chiefs can make it to the Super Bowl by having to win a road game somewhere down the line?
Yes. I'm not. I mean, the only place they'll have to win a road game is Tennessee. So Can they go to Tennessee and win? Yes, especially after Tennessee came to Kansas City and won, right? Like that's did Kansas City already lose at
No, the game
Tennessee?
was in Nashville. Remember that was that wipeout
Okay.
first half. That
Okay.
was the last game, Dave, that Kansas City's defense was awful.
Yes.
Remember that was like the last one, and then they stepped up after that.
Right. Okay. So now they get them in a rematch and get to hear, I mean, if you look at the odds, Kansas City might be favored in that game, believe it or not. Kansas City might go to Tennessee and be small favorites in that game. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Wouldn't surprise me to see pick short favorite either way, depending on who's playing, if Henry's back and all that other stuff. But Kansas City's going to be favored. So I think they can go to Tennessee and win. And if they don't, if it's not Tennessee and they win their playoff game, they get the game at home. The problem for Kansas City in not getting that bye is they got to play that extra game. And anything can happen in that extra game. Now, like you saw how big it was for Green Bay. I mean, they don't have to play that extra game now. They can sit. He can sit 2 weeks and not play and get fully healthy. Everybody can. Just practice and be out of the weather, not take hits for another 2 weeks. It's big. But yeah, I'm not, that doesn't mean like I'm ruling Kansas City out to win the AFC. They can go win a road game at Tennessee.
How about the Raiders? You're going to have a big game coming up Sunday night in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium between the Raiders and the Chargers. Winner goes to the playoffs. That was a huge win yesterday for Las Vegas to go to Indy. I did have the Raiders, and my rationale was this, Dave. With all the Wentz stuff going back and forth, I was assuming later in the week he was going to play anyway, but Indianapolis had picked up all these big wins over New England, Arizona. Now you're laying a bunch of points against a Raiders team that's still motivated. I feel like they went through that lull in the middle of the season and then beating the Browns in that Monday night, beating the Broncos last week, that this team's got a little bit of momentum. They're not going to be a Super Bowl team, but at least there's still something to play for with the Raiders.
Pretty impressive win. I mean, really. And it wasn't like, the Colts gave it to them. I mean, they went and won the game. And I'll tell you what, I'm watching Hunter Renfrow every week. I mean, now that we're in a local market, the Raider game is on all the time. And this would have been one I probably would have just glanced over, or had in an off screen up in a risk room or in a book somewhere. And now it's the focal point of everything you do on Sunday because it's your local team. So I get to really watch the games and pay attention. And I'm impressed. I mean, can they go? They're not going to win in the Super Bowl. They're not even going to the AFC Championship. I don't think. But can they go win a game or two? For sure. Right now, they got to get in. I don't know if they're going to beat the Chargers on Sunday. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with that game. But I'm surprised at the line, to be perfectly honest. I'm surprised that the Chargers are favored by 3. Maybe pick for me, but I think the Raiders are super live. It's going to be a huge event here. People are already talking about the value of the tickets and what this means, for Raiders to actually make the playoffs. And it's definitely a big deal and an impressive win. I don't know how much I take away from the Colts in that, Kevin. Still think the Colts can go win a road game, win 2 road games. Don't know if the Colts can put 3 in a row together. You got to hit a 3-team parlay now to go to the Super Bowl in a conference. It's a tough task. Good football game. Surprised it stayed under at the way it was going. I thought, oh boy, this thing's going over, and it didn't.
Now in the NFC, we'll get to the Antonio Brown thing in a second. I just want to talk about this game before we get to Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
So the Buccaneers rally past the Jets. Great job by New York. I mean, they almost pulled off the Bengals, Titans, Buccaneers trifecta at home this year. I mean, which is unbelievable for the team that's not very good. But the Jets were covering the whole time, so that wasn't the issue. What were your thoughts on the Jets' decision to go for it up 24-20? They had 4th and 2. I liked the decision. I thought the play call was terrible. Having Zach Wilson sneaking on 4th and 2. I didn't have a problem trying to go for it, put the game away, keep Brady off the field, but they fall short. Brady takes them down. They score the touchdown in Tampa Bay, still alive for the 2. But what did you think about how that whole thing went down? Because I liked the idea. I thought that the play call was terrible.
Agree. I'm okay with the play. I'm okay with going for it. being in the Jets situation, you get to, win the game outright. But as soon as I saw them not get it and how they didn't get it, I was like, in-game Buccaneers, they're going down and scoring. Like right then. And I had been watching that in-game the entire afternoon. For me, I was like, wow, the Buccaneers are trailing at halftime. Oh my goodness, you can get them plus 4.5 right now in the game at some point in game. I kept tweeting it. I kept saying it. I was watching it. I'm like, they could lose this game. And then AB loses his mind and storms off the field. I'm like, wow, this is just incredible what's going on. The Jets are going to do it. The Jets are going to do it. And then as soon as he didn't get that first down or touchdown, you got to pass there, right? Like take a shot and pass the ball to get in the end zone and win the game. I was like, that the Buccaneers they got another life. They're going to let them go down here and score. They can't stop them. And they didn't. And it was frustrating as a fan because it would have been a cool upset. And, the book guy in me knows how big, like how just gigantic that is because the Buccaneers money line is thrown in every parlay and the teasers didn't cover, but it was just one of those, like sometimes when the dog wins outright, it's always a big day. So yeah, frustrating to say the least if you got Jets money line, frustrating.
What were your thoughts on the Antonio Brown situation? And I mean, you followed the Steelers for years. You saw him there. He goes to the Raiders, doesn't even play for them, and then bounces around and then is with the Bucs. Still very talented, but obviously is not all there mentally. What did you think when you saw how everything unfolded yesterday?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, I didn't see it live, and then my wife was watching the game, and she came upstairs. She said, "Did you just see what Antonio Brown just did?" I said, "No." So I rewound it. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did he just do? So I know there's got to be more to the story. I mean, I heard Rappaport come out today with a report that Antonio Brown wasn't healthy. He didn't practice Thursday and Friday, and they insisted that he play. He wasn't sure about playing, and then he didn't want to go in when they told him. They said, if you don't go in when we tell you to go in, you're cut. And he said, all right, I'll make it easy for you, and then took his pads off and walked off the field. So who knows exactly what the real story is? But I said this for years with what was going on in Pittsburgh. Like, he was covered up for a lot, a lot of things that he did and said and stuff because he could perform on the field. And I gave, probably Mike Tomlin a lot of grief for a lot of things that went on in Pittsburgh until I really realized what was going on inside that room and what was going on with him and, Lev Bell and all this stuff, and went, well, geez, Tomlin really held it together for a long time. If it is a mental issue or he's got all this stuff, like I hope he does get help, but to walk off the field during a game like that and make it about you in a true team sport, you can't be on the team anymore. I mean, that's the right decision. What are you going to do? Say, I'm sorry when you come in and say like, yeah, I was just, I was just upset. Can't do it like that. You can sit and mope on the bench and you can have the discussion like grown men after, but you can't do that. So I think it hurts Tampa overall. I mean, who's going to play wide receiver now? Godwin's out. Now Antonio Brown's cut. They got guys that, with new numbers, 15, 18. I don't know who any of these guys are. And they somehow win the game. So was Brady and, Byron Leftwich going to string it together, find a way to get, Gronk and some more tight ends involved? Who knows? But I think my first thought was, boy, they're really in trouble as far as now the NFC playoff picture. Like, how are they going to string together 3 wins on the road? Because Green Bay, was winning Sunday night.
Now, elsewhere in the NFC, Dave, the Cardinals, they go to Dallas and not say save their season, but obviously a huge win that they needed after a couple bad losses. I mean, the Detroit loss was, inexcusable. And then Indianapolis, they just couldn't score at certain points of that game. But Dallas, let's not be shocked that, what's wrong with the Cowboys after they beat Washington 56-14? Arizona's still a quality team. But what'd you take from both teams there? The Cardinals getting that big win, still behind the Rams in the NFC West, but also the Cowboys now. I'm not going to go to are they not for real? They're still a pretty good team. But obviously Cowboys taking a step back yesterday.
For sure. I mean, the importance of the Cowboys playing at home, I think it is a big deal. And them not winning that game yesterday, and as bad as they played in the first half, even into the third quarter, what was going on? Um, if you game plan that well and make that offense completely inefficient, they couldn't run. Dak couldn't hit passes. They were third and long every series. I mean, it was bad. And I thought, I hadn't been sold on Dallas all season. I've been like, man, they're beating up bad teams. They put up some gigantic numbers against teams that had their worst performance of the season against them. They look great. The uniforms, the offense, the passing, it's all well and good. The defense is what I was really impressed with Dallas about. The defense didn't, lose any luster, in my opinion, yesterday, but it was the offense. For Arizona, man, this is the time when you see this in the playoff. This was essentially a playoff game. They're both in the playoffs, but this is kind of like we're measuring stick game, right? And Arizona, 3-game losing streak heading into this, just everyone kind of counting them out. Oh, they're the first round bet against in the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. And they go and have a really strong game. Murray plays good enough to win. I'm not sure they can actually make a run here in the playoffs in January, but they can go ruin someone's season. They can go beat anybody, I think, any day, anywhere. They've been a much better road team, right, than home team. I think they've won every game on the road except one all season. So dangerous team to go against, and they showed everybody in the league that yesterday.
So the Cowboys take on the Eagles Saturday, and meaningless game. Philly's in. What do you think about this job that Nick Sirianni's done with the Eagles? And understandably, they beat Washington twice, the Giants, the Jets. They're not exactly beating great teams. New Orleans, when they were all beat up. But still, the Eagles above 500 at this point. Very low expectations coming into the season. And they come back. Washington was in control of that game for a while. The Eagles came back and they took the lead. They won 20-16. But Philly now moving forward, Dave. I feel like I asked this maybe like a week or two ago. Do they got one in them in the playoffs? Maybe one to upset Tampa Bay or the Rams or one of those teams? Or you think it's just they're going to be in the playoffs for one game and be out?
No, a lot of people are saying they're a one and done. I think it depends on the matchup. I think they've kind of carved out their identity, right? I mean, we run the ball. Hurts makes plays when he has to. We don't ask him to do too much. We play good enough defense to keep the game somewhat close and low scoring. Now, these slow starts, I mean, I've seen it in Pittsburgh too all season. You can't continue to do this and just win the game. They've done it because the opponents have been inferior. They've beaten bad teams. And the NFC East has taken some lumps the last couple years for being such a trash division, which it mostly is. The winners 8-8 and stuff like that, and now 17 games. So Dallas has a better record. But yeah, 9-7 is going to do it. The Giants are the worst team in football. They're terrible. Washington's beat up. Okay, that's who's on the schedule. That's who Philly beat. They don't turn the ball over, and they run the football. That goes on the road anywhere. I think the Eagles are live to win a game, depending on the matchup. Can they win the Super Bowl? Hell no. I don't think so. That would be – I don't even know if they can win the second game if they got to go on a road and really outduel a quarterback. Because, the league's a passing league now. You've got to have a quarterback that's going to win you a game. Can Jalen win it with his feet? Yes. Is he going to outpass anybody that's in the playoffs? Between Rodgers, maybe he's going to outpass Stafford in a game. Stafford turns the ball over 3 times in a game. Maybe the Eagles can beat the Rams, but they're not going to Green Bay and win it. I don't think so.
What are your thoughts on the Rams? They beat the Ravens on Sunday. Ugly. No Lamar Jackson. They had a pick 6 early on Baltimore. But I will say this about the Rams, Dave, that man, there's sometimes in sports where you see guys that just get signed for nothing and they make such huge impacts. All these teams could have had Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
And you know what kind of talent he is. I know he's a head case at times, but he goes to the Rams and he's been like an instant hit. And he's not even the best receiver on the team next to Cooper Kupp and the numbers he's putting up. But now the Rams, as long as Stafford doesn't make mistakes, maybe now they're kind of back in this NFC thing after they had a lull earlier in the season.
So for Beckham, I think it starts at the top with the culture. Come in here and be you. You don't have to be the guy. In fact, we already have a guy. His name's Cooper Kupp. All right. The offense is going to go through him. But when I need you to make a play, I need you to be you. And otherwise, I don't need you causing any kind of ruckus. You come in here, you're going to be the piece. All right. That's going to help us get back, to the Super Bowl. If he accepts that, it's great. I don't know if that ever was really said in Cleveland, like you're the guy, when the Landry's the guy, Baker wants to be the guy. There ain't no guy. I think that to be successful in a team sport, just in life, like in general, like, with the kids and the family, like you got to equal parts, equal time. Everybody has to do it together. And the Rams are together. Okay. The Rams are, a few weeks ago, before, the bad little stretch, and then, they beat up Jacksonville. So what? I was like, all right, the Rams are back. They can go win a couple games on the road. Can they go to a cold weather place and win? Yeah, I think so. Then I watch a lot of that game, and I go, nope, I don't think so. Stafford just makes too many mistakes, and it keeps happening. How do you throw those picks? Like, one is okay. That happens. Sometimes ball gets tipped or you just make a bad throw, make a bad read. But multiple times in multiple games, all these picks, I think it's going to cost them. I was rooting for the Ravens to win that game, so then we had more meaningful games the last week. Because I just know in the book, the last week of the NFL was, one, it was so hard to make the lines. Two, it was so hard to bet the lines. And three, if you're in a contest or anything fantasy, all these decisions this last week, so hard to make when the games don't matter. So I just wanted another game that mattered. Didn't get it, which is fine. But, man, I'm just not buying Matthew Stafford was the piece and is going to be different in the playoffs. You are who you are. Your numbers, what did Bill Parcells say? You are who your numbers say you are. It's true. Keeps throwing picks.
Let's go to Monday Night Football. Steelers and the Browns in Pittsburgh. Can you explain this line move, please? Cleveland laying 3 before we got to yesterday. Browns eliminated. Now is as simple as that because the Browns are out. Now this thing has just flipped this much.
Yep. I've seen it for years. They bet this motivation angle. I was saying it last week, all week. The line should be pick. It's just leave it pick because if for some reason, if Cincinnati wins and the Chargers win and the Cleveland is out, they're going to bet the Steelers. What's the worst that can happen? You leave it pick. You take some bets on Cleveland. They bet Cleveland up. So, they have the advantage, the people that maneuver lines and, bet bags of money. They laid pick with Cleveland. They're taking 3 with Pittsburgh. Now they're taking 3 with Cleveland. They've moved the line all over the place. Not sure who the book really needs in this situation. There were times where it didn't matter who won. As long as the game don't fall 1 or 2, the book is fine. I think that's the case tonight. I don't think that there's a mountain of money on one side or the other. I'm surprised that the total shot up based on this information, but I'm not, because the angle that they used to bet all the time was, and it made a lot of sense. And I actually like this one. I like the total more in this than the side. I mean, I'm a fan. It's nighttime in Pittsburgh behind me. I'm still a fan, and it's Big Ben's last game, so I want to see the Steelers win. But a lot of business decisions get made in non-meaningful NFL games. And by business decisions, I mean by the players. Maybe you don't dive for that ball. Maybe you don't, go to make that tackle. You don't go to, rip a guy's head off. I don't know, but the games tend to fly over. You saw it yesterday in like Seattle and Detroit. That total came down. I think it closed 42. Seattle got over the number by themselves. So that's why this total moves so much. The line move is just the line move. I think, we could argue closing line value. Do you feel better about the bet? I mean, I got Pittsburgh plus 3.5. I'm nervous as hell about it. I think they're going to win because they are going to, circle the wagons one more time for number 7, but we'll see.
You think so? You think that's going to be it? And also to not have Tomlin with a losing record, that also into play. You think that's the motivation going into tonight is to send Ben out a champ? Or,
I think so.
Not a champ, but you know what I mean. Send him out on a winning note.
Send him out on a winning note. I think there's a lot to that narrative. I mean, the whole city's, a lot of Steeler fans are fired up. This is the way you want to send him off if you're in that room, if you're Tomlin and the staff, and you keep hope alive for that playoff spot. Now, you got the game against the Ravens next week. You're already a dog. You're a huge dog to make it because how in the hell is Jacksonville going to beat Indianapolis? There is no way on planet Earth that Jacksonville is going to beat Indianapolis at home with them, needing the win to get the playoffs. So I think the reality has set in. I've been on the sideline for an NFL game, the last game of the season when both teams are not in it. The run to the locker room and the pack the bags to get home was incredible. They want to play this game, nobody get hurt, and get out. That's for next week. This week, we're still playing, and we're at home. We can't let Cleveland come in here and win. I mean, you can just hear – you don't even have to listen, but you can hear what Tom was saying to them tonight. Win the game. Win the game for 7. Let's go.
I want to transition to college football and the 2 playoff games on Friday, and those were those were rough to say the least. Georgia blows out Michigan. Alabama blows out Cincinnati. I guess let's start with Alabama-Cincinnati. I was one, Dave, that said group of 5, undefeated, give them a shot. Let's see what they could do. Let them go to the dance.
Yeah.
They hung.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, Alabama had way more yards than them. Alabama had the big touchdown before the half, but they hung for a bit. Yeah. And look, we know Alabama's on another level, but still, I'd rather see that than a 1 or 2 loss major team. If you've won all of your games, you should at least get a shot. That's my opinion on that.
Correct. I agree with you. I tell people all the time, be careful what you wish for, because if we expand the playoff, which I think is going to happen eventually, maybe sooner rather than later, we're going to see a lot more games like that, where the elite of the elite are going to be 13, 14-point favorites over a team, and they're going to cover. They're going to be that much better. It's just a level of depth, and they're playing a bit of a different game. Physically, depth-wise, they're 2, 3, 4 guys deeper. Maybe 1-to-1, they can hang. But, man, Alabama bludgeoned Cincinnati with that run game. They just could not stop the run. And every time they got them to 3rd down, it was short, and they made it. Bama didn't even capitalize on big plays. I think what was one big play for a touchdown, but that was a much better game despite, and it was a good game for me because, needed under. But man, the Michigan game, what the Georgia? Oh man, Kev, I don't know what I took away from that other than Harbaugh going for it on 4th down early and feeling like he had to make it right at midfield and not making it, giving Georgia the ball in a short field. They throw that flea flicker or running back pass play. It's 14-0, and it's over. And the Michigan quarterback looked scared. He looked intimidated. He looked like he didn't want to be anywhere but where he was. And it was over. They didn't make a change at quarterback until it was too late. They couldn't do anything offensively. Their defense just got tired. You're on the field the whole game. That's what happens. Two pretty boring games as far as like excitement level, which means competitiveness or points. I'm good with a good defensive game as long as it's 17-10. Like, I don't want to see 34-11 or whatever that was. I mean, and the Michigan touchdown came late. It's great if you got the favorite there, but if you got the dog or you're hoping for scoring like in game, I mean, doing those games in game for me was always hard because you got to keep making the number lower. You got to make it lower. You got to make it lower because you know the one team's not scoring and they're not kicking field goals. It was a tough watch. We got the two best teams. I just didn't like the way we got there.
Well, and also with Georgia, the one thing I was concerned about was with Alabama on deck, they're probably beating Cincinnati. That I just didn't know Georgia's like where they came from as far as like coming off the Alabama loss. Now you got to beat Michigan and then play Alabama again. I just didn't know where they were going with that, but obviously they showed up and they punched them in the mouth out of the gate. And
Yeah.
Michigan probably peaked with that Ohio State win. We see Iowa really isn't that great, and that's why Michigan just stomped all over them. But Georgia was really motivated. That's a good job by Kirby Smart. Now he's got another shot at Saban.
Yeah, I equated it to this. Utah played Oregon twice in 3 weeks, right? They played them, dominated them physically, had another game in between or whatever, and then they played them again in the Pac-12 championship, and the same thing happened. I see the same thing happening. I mean, my first thought is like, what changed? What Georgia's gonna what they're gonna score more points against Bama? They're gonna slow Bama down. They're gonna what? I don't know. I don't think anything changed. Georgia has to find a way to make Bryce Young uncomfortable. When he was Cincinnati got to him. They kept him moving, and it's not like he takes off and runs for long yards and gains first downs. He looks to move and then make a play. So if you can keep them in third and more than 5 and pressure him to be uncomfortable, I think Georgia's got a shot to win the game. Now, the sharp guys, the bad guys, the rhombuses, parallelograms, they all had Georgia the first game. And the books killed it. People were like, wait a second, we're getting Saban plus 6.5 in the game. So that's what changed the line. But as far as what happened on the field, I don't think much changed. I'm leaning Alabama right now, and probably under. But we got a whole week to talk about the SEC again and how great they are.
Well, I was going to transition into before I let you go. I guess it does mean more for teams like Arkansas, right? In the Outback Bowl. Jimmy.
I'll tell you what, the opt-outs have added a whole new dynamic to handicapping bowl games, and a lot of the steam got there based on the information and the team's best players sitting out. I knew Penn State when I heard that the wide receivers weren't playing. I was like, how are we going to score? Because we had trouble scoring during the season with those guys in. You kind of leaving Clifford out to dry. I don't know. He's got another year of eligibility. He's coming back. But, the guys that make the plays did not. And I was like, that's a dead under. And Arkansas is going to run the ball enough to win the game. It was just one of those ones you just know, like going in. So I transitioned pretty quick to the Oklahoma State Notre Dame game that morning. And then by the time I got to the Rose Bowl, that Rose Bowl singled out game is the most handle. It's the most fun. I remember being in the book. That was my time to leave. Every time when that game kicked off, that was my time to go home. So I always got to watch it when I was in the book, but then I went to a few. If you've ever got a chance to go to a Rose Bowl, Kevin, it's an absolute must bucket list item thing to do on New Year's Day. You must go to the Rose Bowl. You must take in all the pageantry. I don't know if you have to go watch the parade. It's kind of cool to see it once, but you go there early, get there when the gates open, watch that sun kind of rise to its peak with the mountains in the background. Everything that happens before with the flyover and the national anthem. I mean, it's goosebump material. I think about it now the first time my brother and I looked at each other like we were in tears. 2 kids from Pittsburgh that have watched it in a cold place for a long, long time are sitting there on a 60-degree sunny day going, this is incredible. Then the game happens and you're like, wow. So that was the highlight for me was the Rose Bowl again this week. And then you got the Sugar Bowl to close it out. And that injury and everything that happened in that game, incredible stuff.
All right, last thing. What did you think about Kirk Herbstreit's his quotes about players don't love football, all this other nonsense? When I just go back to this, Dave, tell that to the coaches. Tell it to Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley. Those guys are like, we're at really good jobs and leaving. Not guys that leave mid-majors to go to a major job. Guys are at major schools and leaving to get more money. What do you think about everything that Herbstreit said?
With not only leaving for more money, but leaving without the job being done. What if Notre Dame would have got into the playoff?
Yep.
Like, are you serious, coach? Like, you want me to commit to this school 2 years in advance. You want me to come here and work my butt off, and you just leave without telling us? You're going to come back, or you're going to send us a text and say, hey, you got to be careful. I think everyone has to make their own decision. I don't fault a kid for sitting out at all. I mean, at all. But I know me, like that lifetime memory of playing in that game. If I'm going to the Rose Bowl and it's my first time, I'm playing in the game because that's for me. Like I want that experience. That's why I came here. We're at the Rose Bowl. I got the agent telling me, I got my parents telling me maybe, hey man, you should sit out. I wouldn't, but I would choose that for me. But if my teammates sat out, I'd be like, hey man, okay, well, next man up. Let's go. I mean, that's why you have second, third, fourth string guys. You got to let somebody play. And you saw, I mean, what happened in the Rose Bowl with all those receivers and stuff and receiving yards. It was amazing. So the game goes on. The game 100% goes on. You can't fault somebody for sitting out. There's no loyalty in that stuff. I mean, yeah, you want them to, that's antiquated thinking. It's just not, it doesn't exist anymore. And the game has changed so much. The guy's got so much at stake. Like, I don't know. I felt sick to my stomach, Kevin, sick, physically ill when Matt Corral got hurt. Physically ill. I was like, oh God, how much did he just cost himself? But now I know, with the benefit of reflection, that things are going to be a certain way. That was supposed to happen. He was supposed to say he wanted to play. He was supposed to get hurt. Hopefully he's not hurt too bad. But all of that was supposed to happen. That's why it happened. It's not a freak thing. So guys playing, not playing, everybody got to make a choice, and you can't fault a kid for not playing.
Dave Sharapan, you can find him on Twitter at sportsbookconsig. I don't know why I try to spell this. So I try to spell sports all the time.
Yeah.
Sports BK Consig. In case you don't know how to spell sports, Sports BK Consig. Dave, happy New Year again, and we will talk to you next week for the finale of Week 18.
Oh man, and a little playoff preview. I can't believe it, Kevin. This is the last week of the NFL. After this week, it's that cold abyss of college basketball every single day. I can't believe it. It's hard to think about, but we got two more college bowl games, and that's it. That's it.
Dave, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. See you, brother.
There's Dave Sharapan. Always enjoy talking to him. And yeah, college basketball. See how many games we get in every day. I feel like half the slate is postponed on a daily basis, but at least we'll have college basketball and the NBA. We got that. Players now at least coming back, shorter protocols. And Kyrie Irving supposed to come back on Wednesday for the Nets. So we'll see how that turns out if they just lost to the Clippers as 14-point favorites on Saturday night. DraftKings, the championship series, the GOAT, our friend. Hey, he's another year older, 2022. He still looks pretty good with that crown on his head. DraftKings Championship Series is the ultimate competition of contest winners from daily fantasy sports, sportsbook, and casino. The one and only place you can compete in the king of competitions. The best of the best in each domain will compete for series supremacy in their own domain's tournament of champions. They'll have one goal in mind: win the ultimate crown and earn the title of the greatest of all time, the GOAT. That's right. He wears that crown proudly. Check it out now at DraftKings.com. All right. My thanks to Dave Sharapan. A lot of good stuff out of him. We have no college bowl games tonight, obviously, because NFL. The next college bowl game, the final game that doesn't really matter, the Texas Bowl, is tomorrow in Houston between LSU and Kansas State. Wildcats laying 4.5 in that one over the Tigers. And then we have the championship game coming up a week from today in Indianapolis, Georgia and Alabama. Georgia laying 3. So that's a big one there for Kirby Smart. I mean, it's big for Alabama, but for Kirby Smart to finally get over the hump against Nick Saban, and he's had a lot of losses to Nick Saban in big spots in the SEC championship a few times, the national championship. Now you got a second shot at him in the national championship. So I'm going to assume this will be a much better game than what we saw in the semifinals with those two duds that were out there. All right, NBA, quick look at that before we exit today. Rockets, 76ers in Philadelphia. Sixers laying 14 in that one. Philly coming off, last time I played was that Brooklyn game, the Embiid Durant back and forth stuff on Thursday. It's been a little bit for the 76ers. Rockets, meanwhile, 10-27. Hornets and the Wizards. Charlotte's beaten Washington twice already this season. Charlotte, I believe it's now 0-7 this year with no rest. And they lost to Phoenix, got blown out by Phoenix last night at home. Wizards laying 2 there at home. And that total at 232 now. Wow. And they've had 2 low-scoring games, the first 2 so far this season. Memphis is at Brooklyn. Nets laying 6.5. And again, they're going to get Kyrie back in a few days. He can't play in the home games unless he's vaccinated. Memphis, 23-14. Nets at 23-11. Pistons and the Bucks in Milwaukee. Bucks laying 16, but they've owned Detroit. Milwaukee, they struggled to start the season now, 25-13. Great job by the Bucks. Magic and the Bulls in Chicago. Bulls coming off the back-to-back game-winning three-point shots from DeMar DeRozan, beating the Pacers on Friday, beating the Wizards on Saturday. And a huge shot there down the stretch against the Pacers. They were down 6 late in that game. Came back, and DeRozan hit that shot. Chicago, 24-10, 14-point favorites against the Magic. Orlando led Boston by 12 late, 4 minutes to go. Boston came back, tied it, and then the Celtics won in overtime. Magic covered as double-digit dogs, but now Magic back on the road. They're 7-30 so far in the season. Jazz and the Pelicans in New Orleans. Jazz laying 9.5. Utah 26-10. Denver's at Dallas. Mavs 3.5-point favorites. Luka Doncic came back last night for the Mavs. They beat Oklahoma City on the road. Now they're back at home, and the Mavericks 5-0 to the under this year with no rest. The late action, Hawks and the Blazers out in Portland. Doesn't look like Doesn't look like Damian Lillard's playing. Chauncey Billups will be back in the sidelines. He was in the COVID protocol, but Lillard probably won't play. Hawks laying 5.5 there. Heat and the Warriors, good game in San Francisco. Heat lost to Sacramento last night, so they make the short trip to San Francisco. Warriors getting Draymond back tonight. They're laying 11 to the Heat. Timberwolves and Clippers in LA at Crypto.com Arena. And Timberwolves lost to the Lakers last night. Now they stay in LA, flip the courts. They've lost 3 times to the Clippers this season. So we'll see if Minnesota can come out on top. Karl Anthony Towns, he's in the protocol. So is D'Angelo Russell. So, I mean, who knows if guys get cleared? I mean, at this point in the NBA, guys get cleared out of nowhere. So you never know. And in college basketball, Wisconsin, Purdue in the Big Ten tonight. Purdue laying 12.5. Maryland, Iowa in the Big Ten. Hawkeyes laying 9 to the Terrapins. Pac-12, how about this? Arizona's laying 24.5 to Washington. That game in Tucson. Colorado, Oregon, they play in Eugene. 10 o'clock chase game. Oregon laying 7.5 to the Buffs of Colorado. So that's the look at the college basketball card and the NBA card for tonight. And, of course, Steelers-Browns. That is the Monday night game inside of the NFL. BetMGM, the king of sports books. New players only. Bet $10 to win $200 if your team scores a touchdown. Bet on any NFL money line. And if your team scores a touchdown, you'll receive an additional $200 in free bets. Again, new players only, must be 21 years or older to play. Arizona, New Jersey, Indiana, Colorado, Tennessee, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C. only. Full terms and conditions apply. That is BetMGM. They are the king of sports books. I am Kevin Rogers. My thanks again to Dave Sharapan for joining us as he does every Monday during football season. We'll talk to you again tomorrow at noon Eastern right here on the Daily Insider. And as always, best of luck with your bets.